Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Oh my goodness, power went out. This is gosh, two nights with no power. Just got the power back. Apparently this was a pretty, I don't know if it was a major storm. I think it was about a foot of snow, a foot to 2 feet. But what happens is if you have any ice mixed in with these storms, it literally like attaches to the trees and pulls them down. So you'll get limbs down on the power lines. Apparently this happens, and it's pretty widespread when it does happen. And essentially what you get is these, like, it's like a giant ice cube hanging from a tree. Sometimes the tree will snap off. Other times it will just hang there. It's a really bizarre thing. I've never seen anything like it. I should have got some footage for you guys, because there was one tree right outside my window that was basically full of ice and just swinging cryptically back and forth. And I was like, wow, this is it. And really developed an appreciation for why we need to have alternative fuel sources. This is the epitome, this is the prime example of why you can't ever put everybody on the electric grid. Yet this is what these environmentalists want to do. They want us all stuck on an electric grid. Well, what happens when the electricity goes out and they've made propane illegal, or they've made gas illegal? You can't even stay warm with a buddy heater, or you can't fire up a propane stove to stay warm. I mean, these people are not living in our reality. Our reality is different than their reality. They can go get hotels or whatever they need to do, and they survive, or they're not living in our reality. So never, ever, ever give up your right to burn a fossil fuel for power and energy, or to burn a fire. So apparently these gas wars, they're back on their heels at this point, but they'll find another way to try to sneak in, because it's not going to stop with gas stoves, you guys. That's just the first step. Next, it will be you won't even be able to buy propane tanks at the store, or they'll cost so much it won't be cost effective anymore. So always stand up for your right and freedoms of energy. Don't let anyone try to tell you that, oh, you're ruining the planet. You guys, man is a speck on this planet in terms of, even a volcano, for instance. You know how much methane comes out of a volcano? I mean, lifetimes and lifetimes of methane. So we're not the ones producing all the methane. Anyway, let's get into the rest of today's show. I don't want to go on and on about how cold I was for the past, 24 hours. But, I mean, my landlady did say that in the past that they had power outages years and years ago, 20, 30 years ago, that lasted weeks. I was like, that is crazy. But this one was only two nights, which was 2 nights too long, but it's back on, so that's the good news. We'll resume tomorrow's show. We're going to go over the Illuminati cards tomorrow. Hopefully you guys can all tune into that as well. I think it's time to kind of go through those with the fine-tooth comb and see, get an updated perspective on those Illuminati cards, because there are many, many Illuminati cards that we never really even talked about before that are happening right now. Today, we're going to break down the year 2000 film called The Sixth Day. Now, this is a very important decode today, and I was really bummed when the power went out and I couldn't present this to you guys. But this is very, very important. Now, why is the sixth day important? Here's the Wikipedia page on the sixth day. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it was released with 44 days left in the year. It was released on November 17th, and it's all about twins and cloning. Now, let me give you the backdrop of this before we get into this decode here. But before we do, understand that this is probably one of the most clearest 9/11 foreshadowing films that I've seen. So close to the event. We've decoded a lot of films and showed you the 9/11 pre-programming and foreshadowing of the event that had not happened yet. But this one took the cake. And you'll understand why as we navigate through this decode. Basically what we have is twin Arnold Schwarzenegger's clones melting a steel building with aluminum. The building they melt is shaped like a 9 and 11 from the sky. So let's begin here. Schwarzenegger plays a family man, and he's an owner of a ski business in which he basically helicopters high-end skiers onto the top of a summit with these twin helicopters. And this all takes place in the near future. And one particular high-profile customer arrives, and he claims that he needs to do and screen all of the employees that are taking him up to the mountain because he's so high profile, right? For security reasons. Well, what happens is upon the screening of Arnold Schwarzenegger, who owns the ski business, and his friend who flies the other helicopter, as they're being screened, they take a blood sample, and they also make a complete copy of Arnold Schwarzenegger's entire mind. Now, I'm going to start calling him Arnold because it's easier for me to say instead of Schwarzenegger. But basically, his mind is cloned through the eyes, through the portal, through the window to the soul. And so then what happens? He's cloned from that. They don't realize they're giving up their genetic information in their mind map, I guess you call it. But then he's then cloned so that his memory of a murder that actually takes place on the mountain and of the billionaire that he takes up to the mountain, so that his murder will be erased, because the billionaire has a backup plan that he's going to make a clone of himself in case he ever dies. And what happens is they essentially make the clone and they wake up in their new body and they have full memory of everything. But it's not them anymore, it's a clone. Now, where have we heard this before? Well, we've talked all about this, haven't we? About this is how demon possession works. These demons wake up in the new body, the new host body, and they have all the memories, and they share the memories with whoever they're possessing, right? And this is what's going on. So in the movie, the billionaire wakes up in his new body, but he has to erase all of the witnesses, right? So what does he do? He clones the people that were present at the crime, and he then thinks he's going to take out the original who witnessed the crime and cover everything up. Now, why is it such a big deal for someone to be cloned in this scenario? Well, in this plot, apparently there's a law called the Sixth Day Law, and this is why they call the movie The Sixth Day. The Sixth Day Law says that human cloning is illegal. So the CEO, the rich billionaire who gets cloned, he has to cover that up because he can't let that become public knowledge that he just cloned himself, right? So Arnold finds himself in the middle of a high-profile cloning cover-up, I guess you can call it, when they fail to eliminate his original self, who has the memory of the murder event. Now, of course, this is really convoluted and poorly written. It's a poorly written movie, the whole premise of it, but that's what it was. So, our first 9/11 clue, before it ever happened, is when Schwarzenegger looks at his itinerary in the mirror. Watch this. Oh, so that's the machine that they use to scan the eyes and map the brain. That's the movie cover poster. And of course, it's released with 44 days remaining in the year. And here's Schwarzenegger.
Good morning, Adam. At 11, you have a VIP client, Michael Druckert. And by the way...
And of course, this is his itinerary, 9 and 11. Now, if this is the only 9/11 I saw, I wouldn't have been reporting on this for you guys today.
Johnny Phoenix will play next week.
But there's a lot more to this, so stay tuned. Now, cloning of people, even though it's illegal, is secretly happening at the elite levels. One example is this star of this NFL football team. His name is Johnny Phoenix. Of course, it's Phoenix, right? Rising up out of the ashes. And during a particular play, his neck is broken. So they rush him in the ambulance, but then they realize his career is over because his neck's broken, and they just kill him. And then they quickly reclone him for the next game.
Early diagnosis had him sidelined. After further investigation, his injuries proved to be minor.
Then they make up a cover story Oh, his injuries were just minor, he's fine, and they pull the clone out. This is unbelievable.
Happy birthday.
I don't feel any different.
Lock the door.
Now, these old films are weird because humanity wasn't as smart as they are now, are they? We have a lot more information. The Bible says knowledge will increase in the last days, and it certainly has. Because we pick up on all their little cringy things that they seeded into all of this stuff when you look back in time and you review this stuff, right? And this next scene is super cringy. Now, this went right over people's heads who watched this back in the year 2000, but now with new eyes to see, watch and listen. So, Arnold's about to be intimate with his wife, of course, and the daughter walks in. And I want you to listen very carefully to the overdubbed voice of Arnold in the background. And it's clearly overdubbed because his lips aren't moving. And then I want you to look at the banana symbolism. Let me make sure we're connected and we'll keep going with this, you guys. Simply unbelievable. All right, welcome everybody. Looks like we're good. All right. So, the backdrop is he's about to make love to his wife. She says, shut the door, and the daughter walks in.
You always make Daddy feel so good.
Daddy, happy birthday!
You always make Daddy feel so good.
As he's grabbing himself. Unbelievable. Now, if you think this is a product of having one's mind in the gutter, because this is how these people work. They go, oh, why are you thinking like that? Well, then I want you to look at this. This is Duff. She used to be on MTV making out with a boy in a movie. This was in the 80s. This is the kind of stuff that was going on. Newsweek reported on it. Looking back in time going, wow, this is cringy, right? A 12-year-old boy making out with Duff in the movie. What was the movie called? I think it was called Blank Check was the name of the movie. Okay. And, you know, people write this stuff off. They're like, oh, no big deal. That was just the 80s. That's just how the way it was back then. Well, I don't subscribe to that. Morality is morality. And the fact that they allowed this to happen on their watch is crazy. So, this article goes on to show all kinds of other inappropriate stuff that has made it to the screen. So, Arnold's grabbing himself saying, oh, you always make Daddy feel so good. And listen to this part. This is unbelievable. She pulls out 2 bananas. We all know the symbolism of bananas.
Nacho flavored or regular?
I take banana flavored. Thank you.
As they're eating breakfast, which a banana is just a random, that's not something typically you would see in a scene like this to have for breakfast, right? It was intentional. That's a point I want you to understand here.
Careful, you're getting a little old for that.
I am not.
No, I meant your father.
How very funny.
Getting a little old for that.
I am not.
No, I meant your father.
Now, shortly after this, Arnold Schwarzenegger went on to become the governor of California. So this goes to show you how asleep people are. Now, let's keep going with this, because even though human cloning is illegal under the 6th Day Law, organ cloning and pet cloning is not illegal. So you're going to see these weird programs that they have in the movie. One of the programs is called Repet, and it's where you get a new pet cloned from your dead pet. So Repet is kind of like repeat, right? It's a play on the words repeat. So a bunch of people will clone their dead pets. Watch.
How very funny.
Come on, I made breakfast.
Oh,
Our proven genetic technology can have him back the same day in perfect health, with 0 defects, guaranteed, thanks to Repet.
I mean, this is crazy. Now, Arnold plays a character named Adam, as you heard him, when he was staring in the mirror. And it's almost the same name of the real life AutoPilot driving system used in modern day Teslas. That system is called ODYSEE. And so essentially in the year 2000, 13 years before self-driving ever came out, they already knew the technology. Watch.
Yeah. Destination XX Charter Airport selected.
The girl wouldn't stop talking.
Yeah. destination XX Charter Airport select.
Auto drive engaged.
The girl wouldn't stop talking. You and your virtual girls. I mean, here you are a grown man, and your primary relationship is with a piece of software.
Good morning, Adam. Good morning, Adam. Good morning, Adam.
So this is the Tesla AutoPilot. The system is called ADIS, which is basically Adam without the M in it.
Good morning, Adam.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Manual drive engaged. Your destination, XX Charter Airport, is ahead. OnStar will now disengage automatic drive.
Oliver was licking Clara's face this morning.
So obviously, back in the year 2000, everyone talked about autonomous driving vehicles, but nobody thought that that would ever happen. It was out there like with flying cars and stuff. We're like, someday that'll happen, but it could be 50, 60 years before that happened. Lo and behold, 13 years later, we had autonomous driving vehicles through Tesla. So it's all happening right now, isn't it? Now, next you're going to hear the virus aspect to this, which in a movie about clones shouldn't really come up, right? This is a random topic, a random idea that doesn't seem related to a movie about cloning, right? But yet you're going to hear that as cloned animals and humans become very susceptible to deadly viruses.
Don't worry, because I asked the same thing, and the virus is harmless to humans, so she's fine. They had to put Oliver to sleep.
What? He wasn't even that sick.
Oh, I know, but apparently he had some kind of, I don't know, highly infectious canine virus or something.
So they're basically laughing at us because all this is really happening. Now, Oliver was the dog, of course, and he came down with some virus because he got cloned. Listen, there's more here as they explain cloned pets. And they basically start out with a blank, like basically a generic pet with very little features on it. And then they download the pet's scanned mind. They scan them through the eyes. And then they download that into the blank. And it then matures into an exact duplicate of the pet with all the memories of the former pet. Now, the Bible says that the eyes are the window to the soul. They are the portals to your soul. Listen.
It all begins with the growing of blanks. Animal drones stripped of all characteristic DNA in embryonic tanks at the repet factory.
Stop the cloning. Say no to repet.
We can clone your four-legged loved one in just a few short hours. In stage 2, your pet's DNA is extracted from a lock of fur or a drop of blood and then infused on a cellular level into the blank. It's important to have
Still can't make up your mind, huh?
on a regular basis. In the final stage, using repet's patented cerebral syncording process, all of your pet's thoughts, memories, and instincts are painlessly transplanted via the optic nerve.
Oh, your daughter will think you're the best dad in the world.
Now, in the future, they also have lifelike dolls. These dolls are called Sim Pals, almost like the word simple. And Arnold buys one of these for his daughter. Her name is Sim Pal Cindy. Look how creepy this doll is. This is weird.
My kid sister has 2 of these, and she loves them.
Oh, good. Come, let's fix the cop. My daughter will be so excited. Come, let's go home.
What the hell happened to you? I waited at Kelly's for over half an hour. It's now 7:05.
I'm Sim Pal Cindy. Now listen very closely here because this is where we get our first clue of 57 or 57.
7:05.
Cindy.
It's
Your name.
over half an hour. It's now 7:05.
Cindy.
It's
Your name.
Hank, it's me again. What the hell happened to you? I waited for over half an hour at Kelly's. It's now 7:05.
Now what's up with this 7 thing? Well, 57 is 57, which is 5G alphanumerically. And there's something about this signal, okay, the 5G signal. There's something about this that is going to coincide with everything that's happening in this movie here. Now, what's up with 57? Well, 57, believe it or not, was even linked into 9/11. How? Well, this is the courtyard. Here's the giant eyeball that was at the center of the courtyard. Remember that? Before this eyeball, there were 3 pyramids sitting in this exact location. What I want you to notice is the facade of the Twin Towers here. We've gone over this before, but this bears repeating. Because if you look here, you can count 19 tridents exactly. Each one of these is a trident. And when you count these, there are 19 exactly. Let's count them together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 tridents. Each one has 3 prongs. Simple math tells us 19 times 3 is 57. Now, gives a whole new meaning to the 19 hijackers, doesn't it? How is it that 19 tridents? Remember, there were 3 planes, 3 prongs, and 19 hijackers. Basically, the numerology on the face of the Twin Towers matched the event that would take them down, or the event that they want us to believe happened, right? To me, that is not a coincidence. Nobody's talking about this. Nobody's talking about the architecture that seems to support an event that had not happened yet. 57 total. Now, I believe that that 57 will then nest again forward in time with 5G, 19 years after this event. 19 years after 9/11, we got 5G, 5/7. So this is all connected. It's all ritual stuff. And it's very weird, isn't it? Let me check in with you and we'll begin to close in on the end of this decode. Welcome, everybody. Glad you guys could all make it. And you guys found us. A little bit later show today, but a show nonetheless. Now, Arnold finds himself at his own house. His clone walks back. Actually, this is the clone here. With the erased memory of the event, right? But Arnold survived. They couldn't kill him. And the billionaire is trying to kill Arnold to cover it up. Cover up his own cloning. Watch.
There's been a 6th-day violation. A human was cloned. That human was you.
We can help you.
Well, then get him out of there.
So, they try to kill Arnold, right? They can't kill him because he's Arnold. And Arnold in this film, when this film released, was 53 years old. Look at the address on the house.
Oops! Cindy fell down!
Get the doll.
5331. And Arnold's 53 years old. Now, I don't know what that really means. I don't know. What is that? 106? Because it's 2 clones. 53 plus 53. I don't know. But this just goes to show you that the devil really is in the details in these films. And that they take great care to complete the ritual with these numbers. Now, then we get into the organ cloning aspect to it. As you're going to hear next, a company called New Organ that basically clones organs. Watch.
Hello, I'm Dr. Griffin Weir. Welcome to the new home of the Weir Organ Transplant Facility.
Thanks for visiting
Replacement Technologies.
But if the secret ever did come out, with the law the way it is now, he'd be put to sleep like a rabid dog.
Notice the rabid dog mentioned. It's always about rabies, isn't it? We're in the year of the rabbit. A different kind of rabid, but the rabbit nonetheless.
He'd be destroyed just like a racehorse with a broken leg.
That's okay, you can open it up. Just try not to breathe.
Now, you're going to hear more flesh-eating virus mentions as Arnold tries to sneak a gun into the facility, and he sneaks it in an organ transplant cooler.
What? What's in here? Lower intestines. It's for Dr. Weir. He's doing a study on a flesh-eating virus.
So you see the programming here. This is all about flesh-eating viruses, flesh-eating zombies. It's all tied in together. And then we see rabid dogs under like 5G mind control in this next scene. He's controlling them from this pad here. Let's just watch here.
What
are you doing?
See this? It's the only thing keeping the dogs from tearing her apart.
Now, as he says that, the very next scene, Arnold's watching a children's recital in which they are circling around each other, just like in the movie Zelle, which of course was about 5G technology, controlling people, turning them into zombies, circling a cell tower, circling over and over like a carousel. Remember that decode we did a few days ago? Well, that same thing is repeated here as the scene switches from the man holding a remote control to control the rabid dogs, and then switching it right over to the next scene in which the children are circling at the recital. Now, the sheep, of course, were doing the very same thing, circling. Remember the sheep that we covered in that decode as well? And so I believe the two are connected. 5G mind control, circling, all of that. So, next we're going to get into Arnold and the very first time that he meets his twin. At this very moment, the first part in the film where he meets his twin, Arnold calls 911.
You have reached 911 police emergency. Your call is important to us.
Yeah, I know.
But at your location?
I'm Adam Gibson.
Please answer yes.
What? But we don't have enough time for you to be shocked right now because they got Natalie and Clara.
Oh, and your report has been timed out or canceled at your request.
So, what's the significance of that? Well, the first time he meets his twin tower, and he calls 911? Let that sink in for a second. So, they essentially ransom Arnold's family in exchange for his life and to cover up the billionaire's cloning so that the billionaire can keep his secret. And so they set up a meeting at Arnold's ski business. Now, the name of the ski business is called Double X Charter. And I was like, what does that mean? Double X Charter. Well,
I'll bring the disc to the Double X Charter office at 10 o'clock tonight. Be there with my family.
What does Double X Charter mean? Well, it has to mean the two planes that hit the two towers and X them out. It's a charter, a plane, an airplane. That's what I think it means anyways.
What are you doing? Testing it? Because I don't think you have enough aluminum in there.
So at this moment, the two Arnolds sit down and they fill two aluminum thermoses with aluminum powder to make a device that melts steel. Watch this.
Are you kidding me? That's exactly the same amount they used in the Rainforest War. Let's try it. Cool. You better be miles away when this thing goes off.
Melted right through the metal table. Now, listen to this next part.
More worried about getting us into the building to find Natalie and Clara.
He's more worried about getting them into the building to find Natalie and Clara. So, if we think about how all this went down, why did they have to get into the building? Now, some people want to, think maybe it could have something to do with thermite. I don't know. Part of me wants to believe maybe that was planted there to throw everybody off the trail, to throw everybody off of the super ray weapon that turned everything into dust, essentially melted the steel buildings and left the aluminum facade intact. But I don't know. I don't know. What I can tell you is that 9/11 was the birthing in of some kind of evil. So, they have to get into the buildings to plant the bombs and to find Natalie and Clara. And if this was a birthing in event that required mass sacrifice to birth in whatever it is came through the portal, then Natalie and Clara and their names have to mean something, don't they? So I looked up those names. And what does Natalie mean? Birth of the Lord. Clara means bright or clear, like a looking glass, a portal. Now, if you think that Claire being a looking glass or portal is some kind of a stretch, understand that when you look back in film history and TV series history, oftentimes when there is a portal or time traveling component in the film, you will always have a girl named Claire or Clara. For instance, Outlander. What is the time traveler's name? Claire Fraser. Now, there are many, many more examples I can't think of off the top of my head, but if you look back and take notice of any time an actress's name is Claire or Clara, there's typically a time travel component to it, or a portal is being opened. Now, let me check in with you guys, and we'll start to finish up this decode. Glad everybody could make it out today. Glad we have power. Again, tomorrow's show will be on the Illuminati cards for those of you that want to tune in, and that will be a good show. We'll resume it first thing in the morning, 7:30. Now let's finish this up. This is the most important part of today's decode on the film, the 6th day, because the entire thing is filmed at a headquarters of this building right here. This is the Vancouver Public Library, which is shaped like the number 9, with 2 buildings next to it shaped like the number 11. These buildings, of course, were built before the event happened. Watch. There it is there, Central Branch, Vancouver Public Library. Here it is in Google Earth. Now, they did a little bit of photoshopping. They changed the height of that building. I don't know if they did or they... I don't know if they photoshopped the top off of it or raised the central part of the building, but that is the Vancouver Public Library. This is where it was filmed, and there you see the number 9. But when you move in Google Earth to the right, you will see the numbers 1 and 1 next to the number of 9s appearing there. Now, what makes this troubling? Well, because this very building is going to be imploded and melted with aluminum by Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that's what you're going to see next. The twin Arnolds will plant the 2 aluminum-filled aluminum thermoses above twin oxygen tanks, and they detonate the building. There they are, the twin tanks with twin aluminum bombs. The whole thing explodes, and they even have encoded underneath the helicopter the numbers 9 and 11 as well. 7 plus 4 is 11, and there's your 9 right there. 9 and 11. And that is the end of the decode. Now remember, the movie came out before all this happened. Unbelievable. Pretty bold, right? Absolutely it is. Why do we do these decodes? To show people the programming of events that had not happened yet, that these people have all planned out. Why do they plan these events? To steer the course of the human reality and their agenda, to lay out the plan that they already have set in place. This is why voting doesn't matter. This is why none of this matters, because they already have a plan, you guys, and they're showing you the plan before it happens. So that is the decode. Let me go into the chat here, see what's up with you guys. And thanks you for, there were probably 3 or 4 of you that asked me to look at the 6th day. So thank you for that. Of course, the 6th day is a biblical reference. Forgot to mention that. Tracy asks, do I have a generator? No, I don't. I'm still at this rental, so I can't do any of that here. But the power's back on, so that's good. My place that I'm working on, I'm gonna have a propane generator. That's probably your best bet. That way you don't have to deal with gasoline, and you get the propane delivered to your house anyway. It's in a big tank. And you just basically pipe into that, and you'll have power for weeks and weeks and weeks off of that propane. Okay, probably the best way to do it while we still have the right to have propane, because one day they're going to take away that right. I looked into solar, and I just couldn't get around the startup cost for it. Now, I know people that have said, hey, I can make a whole solar system for $1,500. Well, 1, it's probably not going to drive very much stuff. 2, you still have to be dependent on how much the sun shines, don't you? And I've seen solar systems, I've seen good solar systems that, you know, can power most of a house. But in order to power your entire house, you're going to need a $15,000 solar system or more. Because it's not just the solar, it's the batteries too. They're the expensive part. And for some reason, we haven't figured out a way to make inexpensive storage for electricity. And I think that's probably by design. I think that they did that on purpose. And so you buy these batteries, and every time they charge, they lose some of their efficiency. They're only going to last you 6, 7, 8 years before they start to not hold a charge anymore. Or, you know, and it goes down slowly. It trickles down, you know, from 80% capacity to 60 to 50. And before you know it, the batteries are pretty much worthless. So then you've got to repurchase that $8,000 in batteries, you know, and now you're back into a lease or whatever. And so to me, I looked into solar. In fact, we kind of believed in solar at a certain point early on, and I was starting to wake up. I had people, you know, advertise solar on this channel. Good people. I'm not, you know, knocking the people that believe in solar still, but I'm just saying I've since changed my viewpoint on solar, and I believe propane is the way to go while we still have the ability to use it. I've talked to many of you who run propane buddy heaters, and it's the most efficient and quickest way to stay warm. You can stay warm anywhere. You could be anywhere on the planet with a buddy heater and make it through several days staying warm. And you just can't do that with solar. You just can't in a very cold environment. And so there's wood as well. Absolutely. I believe in wood as well. Wood's not as portable. And you got to put a little bit of work into wood to get it. And that'll probably be the last bastion of freedom is wood. But pretty soon they're going to make it illegal to burn a fire. Like literally they're trying to shove us onto the electric grid so they can take it all down and have us all at our knees begging for the power to come back on. That's their plan. So what do? We raise awareness and we don't let it happen. We don't let them guilt us into thinking that, oh, you're hurting the environment with propane after they just blew up a pipeline. They're releasing more propane than you, me, and the 6 billion people on this planet could use 6 lifetimes over. It's like, come on. So don't let these people bully us off of our free energy, because to me propane is about as close to free energy as you're going to get. It's relatively cheap. It lasts forever, especially if you can make it last. You can turn down the dial. You can still stay warm and make it last a very, very long time for the cost that you pay for it. I remember probably about I want to say about 10 years ago, I went and bought a bunch of camping gear because I went through the stage where I was like kind of prepper stage, I guess. And I went and bought all this camping gear. I bought a propane stove, I bought propane canisters, and I could swear that I went to Walmart and bought those little Coleman propane canisters, and they were only a few dollars, like $2 each or something, or like $1. They were so cheap. It was, and I remember this specifically because I'm like, wow, you can cook food from this, and it's like $1 for this propane. Well, guess how much those little Coleman canisters cost now? They're like $8 or $10. They literally rose in price by, what is that, 1,000%? How did that happen? Why did it happen? It's because they want everybody on the electric grid. They want to de-incentivize you from using propane and gas so that one day they can make it illegal. And they'll do it with gradualism by slowly ratcheting down the screws. Right? Yep, everybody remembers those mini bottles were like $2 and now they're $10. That's way beyond inflation. Some of you are paying $14.99 for those now. Wow. Yeah, it's very demographic too. Like some places they cost way more, other places they're way cheaper. So I've since kind of moved away from that kind of prepping, like end of the world prepping, but more just lifestyle prepping, you know, like, yeah, set your life up to where you're not in the beast. So that when all this comes down, you're not in a compromised situation around a bunch of desperate people. So, all right, you guys. Well, hope too many of you didn't miss the show because we showed up a couple hours later. But you can always catch it on the backside. And hopefully you guys got some valuable information out of today's show. I love each and every one of you guys. And I will see you tomorrow morning. Take care and be safe.